views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of Bronxnet or the program underwriters.
Director and Chief Curator of the Sugar Hill Children's Museum of Art and Storytelling, and this is just perfect timing because it is a very important conversation to have about just the nature of action, and action in the face of climate change, action in the face of bigotry, action in the face of all of what needs to be done to correct all of what has torn up so much of the world, including Puerto Rico. It's happening on the last day of our exhibition, Relational Undercurrents, so if this is your first time coming, we hope you come back. We hope you stay afterwards and see the show. It's also the last day of Ana Mendieta, Thinking About Children's Thinking, and we will be completely closed for the next 3 weeks and open up again on October 18th. So we hope that you will come back and see all of what this is transition right now, what will happen next. So without further ado, I want to introduce our partner organization executive director, Joanna Castro of NOMA, who will introduce the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Buenas tardes. Oh God, that's a little depressing. Buenas tardes. Okay, much better. So as Lauren said, my name is Joanna Castro and I'm the executive director at NOMA, Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance. For those of you who don't know, NOMA is an art service organization. We promote, cultivate, and support uptown artists and arts organizations. We've been around for 11 years. So I just want to say a few words. My apologies, I just want to make sure I cover everything. As many of you know, this past Wednesday was the first year anniversary of Hurricane Maria that caused incredible havoc, not only in Puerto Rico, but as well as other islands in the Caribbean. So as Lauren mentioned, please check out this exhibit we have, Relational Undercurrents with Puerto Rican as well as other Caribbean artists. I also want to give a shout out to uptown artists who were part of a fundraiser this past March at Cubans in collaboration with Cornerstone Studios. The fundraiser was for artists in the first exhibit that will take place hopefully in the next few months at the Arecibo Museum of Art and History. It is my goal today, through the screening of Puerto Rico, Hope in the Dark, and the panel discussion that will follow afterwards, to showcase examples of uptown solidarity and bring further awareness of what we can do today. I would be remiss if I didn't give thanks to many folks who have been involved in this program. It is super cheesy, but it is also very true that it takes a village. I want to thank Shirley Acevedo for introducing me to Professor Muscai, who was behind this documentary made by K students. She's unable to come today, but I wanted to thank her for allowing us to screen this documentary today. You're in a real treat. This is an updated version from the original one that came out this past spring. I also want to thank our gracious host, Lauren, and her team at the Sugar Hill Children's Museum of Art and Storytelling. To Charlie Vasquez, our moderator, who will speak as soon as the screening is done and introduce all of our fabulous panelists. And a warm thanks to Michael Maxnavi and Bronxnet. They are filming this program today. So a big thanks to Hannah and Walter, who are part of the team. Last but not least, feel free to tweet, Instagram, Facebook, tag NOMA, Sugar Hill, Pace Docs, Charlie, all of the panelists. I know that's a bit of a mouthful. And a big shout out to Michelle, who is integral part of NOMA, our photographer today who designed the flyer and who really does a lot behind the scenes. So I hope this program will inspire you to take action in whatever way you feel comfortable. So now we'll show the screening. It's about 47 minutes long and it is bilingual. Thank you.
We were not ready for Maria.
Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico and everything changed.
Nunca habían tenido algo así.
Es una cosa horrible, es un montón. No estaba del todo preparada.
María, esto fue un infierno.
María nos ha dado mucho dolor.
El huracán María, de verdad que fue total devastación.
Pedíamos a Dios que nos ayudara.
The history of Puerto Rico will be defined as before and after Maria. An economic hurricane has been brewing in Puerto Rico for years, and its government is in shambles. Its infrastructure is outdated and crumbling, and it can't borrow money to fix it. In May of 2017, Puerto Rico, which has a $103 billion economy, declared bankruptcy. Since then, it has been trying to restructure more than $70 billion in debt.
In 2006, Puerto Rico entered an economic decline into basically a recession. And that happened because the federal government have not treated Puerto Rico like part of the United States. In 1996, the U.S. Congress repealed Section 936 of the IRS that provided tax incentives for American corporations to establish their operations in Puerto Rico. And what it did was to get a lot of the American corporations that were doing business in Puerto Rico, they left.
Puerto Rico has been a territory of the United States since 1898.
Then in 1952, there's a very interesting experiment called Commonwealth in English, or Estado Libre Asociado, the Free Associated State. Began in Puerto Rico, and this is the current period in which we're now engaged.
Yes, we're a Commonwealth. You remember Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, British Commonwealth, nice sounding term. Whereas for the Puerto Rican audience, they would say we're a free associated state. And we have this bilateral pact between us and the United States where we're equal partners. And that was good enough in the 1950s, 1953, for the United States to go to the United Nations and say, Puerto Rico is no longer a colony because Puerto Rico has a special bilateral pact with us. So they're free, they can do what they want. That's bullshit.
When we speak today, 2018, what the future status of Puerto Rico should be, it should be one where we are no longer some mistress to the United States. We cannot be hypocritical as a country, as a nation, where we want to defend and promote democracy all over the world. And yet, here we are, presiding over the longest colonization in the planet.
Powerlessness. Think about that word for a second. Powerlessness. This is what Puerto Rico has faced for centuries. Powerlessness.
These are American citizens.
3.4 million U.S. citizens live in Puerto Rico, and they are entitled to the same government response as any state. But half of Americans don't even know that.
Puerto Rico has a little more self-government than it did before, and of course it elects its own governor and its own legislators. But unfortunately, in the last 2 years or so, these colonial elements have come back with a vengeance, because now there is an overseeing board called PROMESA, appointed by the President of the United States and Congress, which really has no relationship to the elected government of Puerto Rico.
PROMESA, or the Puerto Rico Oversight Management and Economic Stability Act, was created in order to help Puerto Rico restructure its crushing $72 billion debt.
The main thing is that I believe that Puerto Rico didn't have any other option. The only way that we can have all the sides coming together at the negotiation table is by having PROMESA. Some people might say that is bad. I will say that is the only way. And PROMESA and the board have the ability to decide how much money Puerto Rico will be able to pay back.
PROMESA allowed the debt of Puerto Rico to be protected from creditors and have an organized restructure of the debt that is not a perfect system, and it was not a perfect solution, but at least it protected Puerto Rico from complete financial chaos. We're not happy with the end result of PROMESA. Let's be clear about that.
So since 2016, when PROMESA was passed, it's going to send our economy into a downward spiral, because with more cutbacks, there's going to be less economic activity, more immigration to the United States, and there's no end in sight to that cycle.
On September 7, 2017, Hurricane Irma's eye hit the continent of Puerto Rico. That Category 5 storm carved a path of destruction through several Caribbean islands, leaving 1 million people without power. By the time Maria hit, 60,000 people in Puerto Rico were already without electricity. On Wednesday, September 20th, Hurricane Maria, a powerful Category 4 hurricane with 150-mile-per-hour winds, made direct landfall on Puerto Rico, ripping through the entire island, bringing severe flooding and a violent storm surge.
Okay, the audio is not very good in this place, so do you mind if I put a microphone on you so I can hear you on my cameras for Bronxnet?
At the time of landfall, Maria's eye was about 35 miles across, basically its diameter, and the width of Puerto Rico is 35 miles. So the eye tracked diagonally across Puerto Rico from one corner to the next. 2017's hurricane season was very special for meteorologists because we went through Harvey, and right after that we had Irma, and then we had Maria.
La amenaza del huracán María para Puerto Rico es la amenaza más significativa que hemos tenido en época reciente. Este es posiblemente uno de los mejores pronósticos que se ha hecho desde el Centro Nacional de Huracanes y sobre todo con el pronóstico meteorológico de los modelos europeos y americanos fue casi a la perfección.
If for some reason it comes down, I'll come and put it back in, but don't mind me for that.
Muy difícil para enfrentar
when they're
un huracán
talking,
categoría 1, imagínate para categoría
if you
4
don't
o
mind,
categoría 5.
just staying as quiet as possible so I can pick them up too. So,
Y yo no creo
so
que
let them
todavía
answer the
yo he
question,
votado,
just give a beat, because sometimes, I know
Porque
you're engaged into
lo que
dialogue,
nosotros
which is
vivimos
great,
no fue
but
fácil.
just like in Crackles and Breaks,
Y
they
no
don't have
porque
an
sea fácil
audio for
cualquier
me.
huracán, es que
So,
sencillamente
thank you, I appreciate it.
las horas de terror, el viento, el pensar que tú te puedes morir, El saber que había personas que podían estar ahogándose mientras nosotros estábamos hablando, personas que no salieron de las zonas de alto riesgo. El sistema entra a las 6:15 de la mañana del miércoles 20 de septiembre y sale entre Humacao, Yabucoa y Maunabo, y sale por Arecibo y Quebradilla con un diámetro de casi 30 millas.
From Humacao to Arecibo, these are the stories of the people of Puerto Rico, the survivors of Hurricane Maria.
Llevo 58 años viviendo aquí y de los huracanes, David, George, Federico, Hortensia, Hugo, no pensaban que iba a ser de esta categoría.
El huracán María entró por esta área con 205 millas por hora de viento y hizo que la marea ciclónica entrara por el mar, se juntara con el agua del río y el 100% de la gente de Punta Santiago perdiera el 100% de sus cosas. El 60% de los habitantes de Punta Santiago se quedaron en sus hogares, escondidos.
Es algo que no se puede explicar en un sentido. Mi nieta mayor me preguntó que cómo se oía eso, era que vas a oírlo como si fuera quizá un tren, pero 100 veces amplificado. Pero fue peor. Ya a las 5 de la mañana no me voy a negar que yo le pedí a Dios que me pusiera a dormir. Porque es insoportable.
En Puerto Rico la gente pasaba hambre.
Pero ha sido bien traumante, física, mental y emocionalmente. Es bien difícil.
Toda esta experiencia pues, llevó al pueblo de Punta Santiago a sumergirse en una gran tristeza, ¿verdad?
Aquí nosotros no hemos perdido la fe porque somos bien unidos y esto nos ha unido más. Y gracias a otras personas que han dado la mano.
After 15 years of growing corals, that is like a bulldozer passed through there, nothing left on the ocean floor. I cried when I went into the water. I lost more than 75,000 corals. You cannot afford to help the corals when you know that people are dying.
Where we're located is in the Enduque National Rainforest. We're in a town called Nahuel. There were no trees left. Everything was completely gone. It looked like a massive forest fire. Well, it took us a day and a half just to get through our front door. FEMA showed up maybe about a month and a half ago for the first time.
A lot of the young people on the island lost everything they had, their roofs, their houses, their walls, their possessions, everything. And that happened to some of our neighbors here on the mountain.
The impacts have been psychological, have been emotional, having to see everything you worked for kind of go. We saw the devastation throughout the whole island. We realized we needed something outside of generators. So we decided to go solar. We just got power about 2 weeks ago, March 1st, and it's been fantastic. After the storm, everybody really pulled together because everyone realized if we didn't work with each other and help each other, nothing was ever going to happen.
Welcome to Puerto Rico. It's a great place to work.
So the first day I was down here, someone else drove me around, and he said I looked like I was on a roller coaster, because that is actually what it's like out there. Every day we hear a story of something changing. Grounds were there, and not anymore. Cutout was open, it's not anymore. There's a line running off the pole that wasn't there before.
You have to assume the streetlights are not working. You have to assume the truck's not going to fit on the street. You have to assume that your grounds are not going to be there when you go back.
Traffic lights are on today, off tomorrow. We're working far from normal conditions.
So when we first got here, the
back in November. And most companies, including Con Ed and including Preco, which is the company down here, utility company, they have an automated, electronic, computer-driven, what they call outage management system. Because of the devastation that the hurricane caused, that really was not working. So we kind of had to go back to basics. We have maps, we're marking up the maps. There's no electronic mapping, really. There's no pole numbers on the poles. There's no pole numbers on the maps. It's not very sophisticated, but it works. We've done a really good job. We've done a very safe job. The San Juan region is pretty much 100% back in service. We're now working in some of the other areas, and it's working and it's restoring customers. We work with the utility company here. We update them every day as to what we're doing. They take a look at it, they give us feedback, and then we go back out the next day and start all over again.
These people have been at lights for 6 months.
So it's desperate times for some of these people, and they want to get their lights back. And obviously, we're doing as much as we can, and anybody else that's here. People have businesses with generators, and they're running 200, 300 feet of extension cord to feed their house. It's all over the place. The lights are going to go off. We put a lot of lights on. I was here in January. We were over 100,000 when I came back. At the end of February, we're down in the 20s. We put 80,000, 90,000 people back on horrendous terrain.
Once they see us show up, they're more than happy because their lights are coming back. They're wonderful people. The way they treat the crews is incredible.
They're very appreciative to see us there, and we have to continue this one team, one mission, one family, and kind of get them restore their lives back to normal. There's still a lot of work to do.
Before Maria, there was another hurricane, Irma, that even though it passed at 200 miles from Puerto Rico, but still, the water and the winds hit Puerto Rico too, and some people lost the electricity then.
Cuando pasó María, bueno, yo la cogí en mi casa porque me dejé llevar por Irma y nos quedamos. Pero entonces, cuando nos vinimos a darle cuenta, pues ya había subido por las alcantarillas del río.
Perdí muchas cosas porque se llenó el piso de agua y todo lo que había en ese cuarto se mojó, las ventanas se abrieron y por esa ventana entraba agua. Intentábamos salir, pero yo me cogí miedo al agua y no me quise tirar porque ya el agua estaba bien alta, estaba a 5 pies.
Most of the work on the streets was done by the people, picking up trees they fell down right in the middle of the street. Cables, electrical cables were all over.
Gracias a Dios, pues sobrevivimos nosotros mismos, nos ayudamos a otros.
Puerto Ricans were very generous to those unfortunate. There were people sharing what little they had with their neighbors.
63 days after Hurricane Maria, we started receiving water. My mom lost her whole house, my grandma lost her whole house. The power basically took 6 months to come back. So I have 6 employees who work in the construction field with me. And we started looking for things to help, going house by house. How may I help you? What we can do is right now stay here, survive, work hard, pay our taxes and continue.
La escuela está sin electricidad desde el huracán Irma hasta el día de hoy, aproximadamente 8 meses.
Looks like it's in a pretty good state of disrepair.
Se limita el trabajo, la ejecución de lo que pueden hacer.
That's what it's all about.
Agencies in Puerto Rico's capital and largest city are committed to the island's recovery and long-term economic development.
The people in the communities of Antonio Martin Peña struggles every day to have a normal life.
So before Maria, we had a highly organized communities that already were going through quite some challenges.
You know, the problem is, and now it's just gotten worse over the years, and I have no attention.
A total of 25,000 inhabitants in these 8 communities lack adequate infrastructure. So prior to the hurricane, the communities were already facing public health hazards.
Well, esto me really got worse. As you can see, all the vegetation that was blown over by the winds of the hurricane come into the waterway.
They are still living with a blue tarp as a roof.
Maybe 70% of the community flooded with raw sewage for about 4 days.
A little rain and the community is flooded with contaminated water. When all that stuff starts to dry up, it fills the air with the smell and everything. And you smell it like you're breathing out all that air, all that contamination. Now, how can you have healthy people living next to something like this?
El huracán María definitivamente ha dejado unas huellas que son difíciles de una manera. Impactó en la YMCA de tal manera que los servicios que proveíamos se vieron impactados y todavía siguen siendo impactados. Así que fue bien triste encontrar a la YMCA completamente destruida.
The person here who's going to hand you the microphone, you're going to see that it has like a contractor placed there. It looks a little weird, but it's the only way to get audio. So when you pass the panel to the panelists, the microphone to the panelists, just hand that over. You know, just say
it's attached
to microphones and just hand it to them.
Okay.
You'll be mic, so you don't have the problem. You can talk on your mic and I'll pick you up on the lab.
Okay.
And then he'll put a little sticky note to hand that microphone to the panel.
Okay.
If not, I'll be there on that camera and just, come in.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
And we have to reconstruct as part of the effort of the new effort to save the culture. Our guess is that we have to rebuild 1/3 of the infrastructure of arts in Puerto Rico. La red de albergues es una organización sin fines de lucro. Somos una coalición que agrupa, coordina y representa el trabajo de los albergues de niños, niñas y adolescentes de todo el país. Antes del huracán teníamos un plan de emergencia, pero el plan no fue suficiente para el gran huracán que recibimos. Todavía hoy hay 12 albergues que no tienen el servicio de electricidad, 3 albergues que no tienen el servicio de agua. Creo que fue una de las mayores lecciones. Ver los niños y las niñas que habían sobrevivido violencia, que habían experimentado las cosas más graves de su vida y aún en este momento, en el huracán, seguían sonriendo. Los niños nos sostuvieron, la alegría de los niños nos reafirmaba por qué estábamos aquí.
Antes de que pasara, mi verdadera preocupación era todos los perros realengos que había en el país. Antes de María, había sobre 300.000 perros realengos. Al pasar María, a las personas abandonarlos, al estar en la calle, sobrepasamos en cuanto a perros 500.000 y en cuanto a gatos, 1.000.000 de gatos realengos.
Que yo todavía como que no lo he superado, ¿entiendes? No, entonces cuando tú vas a las comunidades, ves todas las cosas que están pasando, esos primeros días que tú sentías que todo era incierto, tú no sabías dónde tú estabas parado, tu familia cuando tú ibas, y todavía no he podido superar esto.
Quedamos bien impresionados por el desastre. Estamos sin luz, sin comunicación en la carretera, todo esto quedó destruido.
Todo lo perdí. Principalmente la casa también. Se me fue todo completo. FEMA no me ayudó tampoco a ayudar en la casa.
Los recursos que posiblemente tú como persona tenías y te habías preparado posiblemente para 3 días, ya no son 3 días. Ya la ayuda del gobierno y la ayuda que venían de la agencia, ya tú no la podías esperar.
Pero el gobierno, como era adentro, el gobierno solamente limpiaba la parte de afuera.
No podíamos esperar por nadie, no podíamos esperar por el gobierno. Teníamos que nosotros mismos tomar las armas, las herramientas
y comenzar entonces desde cero a limpiar las instalaciones.
Como a la semana llegó el gobierno, pero la facilidad que se preparó del paso, la carretera aquí en el área de nosotros, fueron los vecinos, los mismos vecinos de toda la carretera para abajo hasta el pueblo, todos los vecinos.
Yo llevo 30 años trabajando con la YMCA y la YMCA me ha dado esas herramientas para yo sentir y padecer por nuestros niños, nuestros jóvenes y nuestras comunidades.
Cuando el huracán María golpeó a Puerto Rico, toda la energía eléctrica, todas las comunicaciones telefónicas y de otra naturaleza cayeron. Vimos la vulnerabilidad que tenían las comunidades. Todo el mundo dejó de tomar agua de las quebradas y bañarse en ellas.
We noticed high in the mountains, the animals have been killed and throwing all things in the river, and it's contaminated. That's why we decided to install a well and to provide water to the community so they could have healthy water.
Fue muy triste, fue mucho daño emocional, económico, cuando uno tiene hijos enfermos. Yo tengo una hija enferma de los pulmones, pero sobrevivimos, estamos vivos, gracias a Dios. Mi casa estaba, parecía un lago por dentro, eso temblaba, eso me pasó horrible, un monstruo. Ella hacía como un monstruo, y ella a la ventana la quería comer. No, todos los hijos se lo habían movido. Y como somos familia, todos somos hay una unión que no me va a coger de nuevo de sorpresa, no me va a coger de porque nosotros estamos bien, pero si tú miras hacia el lado, ver a los otros sin casa, sin techo, tú eres.
Esto fue un infierno. Estuve encerrado más de 3 meses en esa área, sin poder salir ni nada, porque no tenía agua, no tenía comida, no tenía nada. Yo me las inventé después de 10 días que vi que no iba nadie a mi sector, a mi casa. Tengo un patio bien grande y le puse ayuda con un tractorcito que tengo de cortar grama, pues lo hice bien grande que se veía desde los cielos. Nosotros usábamos teleférico para poder salir porque había personas enfermas en este lado. Entonces todos los vehículos, todo estaba en esta área de aquí que uno no podía salir de ninguna manera. Y cuando salíamos al otro lado no teníamos en qué movernos hacia el puerto. Yo espero que este puerto no se lo vaya a llevar ahora el río. Yo creo que está bien construido y bien hecho. Yo espero que no vaya a pasar lo mismo. No, ahora estamos felices, ahora tenemos vida. Ahora tenemos vida con este puente porque ya las personas que están encamadas por todos estos sitios pueden salir.
When Maria came in, it was very, very rough. It was, we really felt it, it was very windy. We saw, when we looked outside, we saw some of the streets and some of the things flying all over. We got water, even when we had the windows closed. We had a lot of water going into the house, and the water came from both sides. Everything was destroyed in the main road. They did not maintain it, that's a problem we're here. We just got power back about a week ago, so it was over 5 months.
habíamos escuchado un huracán categoría 5. Este colegio pertenece a las Hijas de la Caridad de San Vicente de Paúl. Luego se fundó el colegio para el servicio del hogar de las niñas, para educar a las niñas pobres y para servir a la comunidad en general. Ese día y esa noche que empezó a azotar el viento fuertemente, les pedimos que durmieran, pero ellas no podían dormir, ellas tenían miedo, se levantaban, trataban de mirar por el cristal, que se veía, no se veía nada porque no había luz, estaba muy oscuro, pero se oía mucho ruido, muchos golpes, mucho viento, mucha lluvia. Las niñas tuvieron una gran impresión por eso. Hicimos oración con ellas, pedíamos a Dios que nos ayudara y tratamos de mantener la calma. María básicamente nos dejó sin hogar. Todas las habitaciones de cuartos de dormir de las niñas se mojaron, cayeron los acústicos sobre las camas, se mojaron todo. Solo quedó una imagen de un ángel en la pared. Para octubre yo me reuní con el obispo de Arecibo porque necesitamos un hogar. Yo no podía tener las niñas así, refugiadas. Todavía nuestro hogar está destruido.
The most recent tally from Puerto Rico's government reports that about 97% of the island has had power restored. 98.9% has access to running water, and almost 99% now has telecommunications service. Still, hundreds of thousands remain in the dark.
This is the longest blackout in American history. We know that if in any other jurisdiction of the United States, something like this occurred, people will be on the streets. The outrage, it's immoral what has been happening in Puerto Rico. And we're going to continue advocating for Puerto Rico for equity and fair share.
Puerto Rico deserves equal support, and there is still a separation of the question of statehood. Is this the time? If not now, when? The population in Puerto Rico is debating that solution.
The New Progressive Party is the party that believes in statehood. They want Puerto Rico to become State 51. But not only that, there is another party known as the Popular Democratic Party, the party that believes in Commonwealth. And we also have the Independence Party, the party that believes in not having any relationship with the United States or any other country.
I believe Puerto Rico should be the 51st state. Look, in 1898, maybe independence was the best option. In 1952, maybe the Commonwealth status was the perfect option.
The main argument by statehood advocates has been that Puerto Rico were to be the 51st state, it would have parity with the other 50 states. It would have 2 representatives, 2 senators, a large number, I think it's 7 in the House of Representatives, and of course access to federal funding.
I hope that now is the time when government begins to hear us and take us seriously and not be tempted to respond with the cheapest alternative that ultimately becomes the most expensive one.
We have to resolve this problem looking at a long-term solution. It will take more time, it will require more investment, but we need to do things right.
I believe that we need an opportunity to do it ourselves. And I do not believe that the relationship with the United States as it currently stands can abide. We cannot stay in the same conditions, exactly what exacerbated the aftermath. That being said, we might be American citizens by birth, but we are a different nation. And that is something that has become clearer and clearer to me
So it's not clear what the United States wants to do with Puerto Rico. And the answer for the time being is really not much, or maybe not a doggone thing.
Weighing in at this point during this crisis on the status of Puerto Rico would only create division among Puerto Ricans and a distraction, unless there is a real commitment from Congress to put forward an election or referendum in Puerto Rico that will lead to a real discussion and a real vote that will be respected by Congress. We were wasting our time.
As of today, the Puerto Rican government is functioning at a very limited capacity and needs to rebuild its infrastructure. Puerto Rico continues to need help.
We're supporting the local government in whatever needs they have. Some people think that we get there and then we take the lead, and that's not the way it is. FEMA, we support the government, the local government.
I don't know anybody who's gotten 1 red cent from FEMA. I know a couple of people who did the same thing we did. Got online, filled out the form, because you're form literate and you have an internet connection, and you get 500 easy bucks for having been without electric power, whereas somebody possibly with less cultural capital, apparently with FEMA you have to go and get rejected and then come back and ask them again, which a lot of people understandably aren't so much up for.
We ask survivors to come to us if they feel that they receive assistance, but they need more assistance to fix their house, to come to us. We have 64 disaster recovery centers where we have FEMA staff ready to talk to them. Our mission is to help survivors. It's not to say no, it's to find every possible way within the Stafford Act to make sure that we help them in any way that we can.
And one of the most immediate problems now is that because many of these people don't have official title to the land or to the structures that they live in, they're not going to be able to have financial aid from the federal government.
The federal government failed the people of Puerto Rico. The kind of emergency preparedness wasn't there, and as a result of that, people died. This hurricane and this natural disaster was a monumental disaster that required a monumental response.
Puerto Rico deserved better than this country has responded. Period.
And if FEMA does not have the means to help, or we cannot help because of the Stafford Act and the limitations we have a huge network of nonprofits, of other organizations that can help.
I've been very impressed with what has happened since the hurricane, and who I've been impressed with are the people of Puerto Rico. There is a false narrative out there of Puerto Ricans just relying on the government and not doing anything for themselves. And I think more than any time in recent history, post-Maria, we have seen the community of Puerto Rico prove that they are more than willing and capable to do what is needed for the island and for themselves.
We believe that Puerto Rico needs to be reconstructed by Puerto Ricans.
We're going to see a continuation of community leaders rising from this and really taking what has happened and really turning it into magic and transformational magic for Puerto Rico.
If the government in Puerto Rico have already said to certain communities, you need to find ways to become self-sufficient, because we're not going to get to you anytime soon. We're not going to be able to provide you with the basic services. And these communities are coming together and actually finding solutions for them to be self-sufficient, that they can actually come together as community and find solutions as community. I think that that's going to have a strong result and message to the leadership in Puerto Rico.
Regardless of size, resources, or experience, organizations and individuals both inside and out of Puerto Rico have come forward to make a difference.
The Civil Civic Hope Initiative, our slogan, "See the light, feel clean, have hope," assembles our goal, which is to be able to provide solar lamps and hand-powered washing machines as means of physical and psychological health as well as hygiene to those affected by the hurricane. And the second day or third day after the hurricane, I was looking out the window and I saw the sun setting. And to me, that sun setting was as if hope was leaving. Not only for me, but for the millions of people in the island who were severely affected by Hurricane Maria. Even though I was surrounded by my family and I had my grandparents with me, I still felt lonely, and I couldn't imagine how other people were feeling that lost their homes, lost their roofs, lost everything. So the fact that at least I had my family with me drove me to be able to help those who were not as fortunate. Our initial goal was $100,000 and 1,000 families. We've surpassed that goal. So as long as we can purchase the materials, we can purchase lamps and washers, we'll be helping as many families as possible.
So my director, Bill Colon, and I were here today at Professor Cronin's Environmental Policy Clinic. So we're going to be going up to Albany and talking to our legislators about the proclamation that they're doing for Puerto Rico.
Because what we're asking the state legislature is for them to all say, yes, we are on board. Sometimes it gives legislators, even the governor's office, a reason to take further action on the situation in Puerto Rico.
There are a lot of parts of the island that don't have electricity, don't have water, don't have homes, food, clothes. I have faith that it's gonna get better.
Your program in New York is preventing the extremes of these storms or disasters. We want that instead of these band-aids that are consistently being placed and making matters worse, and it's making the economy more devastating because Puerto Rico was already in a state of crisis prior to the storm.
Correct. Little that they have nothing now.
Exactly.
Since Hurricane Maria, nearly 300,000 Puerto Ricans have left the island for the mainland.
Most of these recent immigrants have landed in Florida, and everyone is expecting them to participate actively in the next midterm elections this year, especially because they concentrate in Central Florida, the Orlando metropolitan area, and as we know, most of those new voters will register as Democrats. So there might be an impact from Puerto Rican migration here in the state.
So it's going to be more expensive for the federal government to provide services to the people that are coming here rather than providing those services in Puerto Rico.
I think that this could be the redefinition of what it's like to be a Puerto Rican. I think that these coming together of the diaspora with hand in hand with working with Puerto Rico, with Puerto Ricans on the island, it's an incredibly powerful moment in our history. We are reconnected.
Over 3.4 million Americans are still affected by Hurricane Maria, emotionally, economically, and politically. Although Puerto Rico's history will be marked as before and after Maria, the Puerto Rican people's hope throughout this darkness has created a sense of community.
Puerto Ricans are extremely hopeful, and I think it's in our DNA. Politically, we're not a separate nation, but in our culture and our understanding of self, we are a nation. We are Puerto Ricans. We have a strong sense of self. So that's where the hope comes from. We probably are not as rich as we could be, but we are rich as people, and we are going to continue moving forward as people.
On April 18, 2018, nearly 7 months after Hurricane Maria and weeks after restoration, Puerto Rico experienced total darkness once again.
Yo no creo que Puerto Rico está preparado para otro María. No estamos preparados psicológicamente, no estamos preparados en nuestra infraestructura y no estamos preparados en la vivienda, ni en la salud, ni en el gobierno, ni en la parte económica. O sea, Dios nos protege en esta temporada de huracanes, pero yo no creo que nosotros estamos preparados.
you guys to put so much care into this project. This is what gives me hope. You guys give me hope.
Hello. Was that powerful or what?
Wow.
So we actually have 3 of the PACE students here, and one of them will be part of our panel. Now let's get to the second part of this program, and Charlie Vasquez will introduce each of our speakers this afternoon. Ahora vamos a continuar con la segunda parte del programa. Vamos a tener los panelistas.
So, is this on? I don't know if they attach the. Hello. We'll be using that mic because it has a second mic for the film crew, so just bear with us 1 second and take that in. Such a powerful work of documentary film. I'm feeling so many things, I don't know where to begin, but I think that will channel some of that, and the discussion will begin in a couple of minutes. Cool? Estamos. Okay. Thank you. All right, there we go. I'm going to introduce today's panelists and then set up a conversation. We had a chance to send an email thread out, so everybody's had time to think about what they'd like to say. We're going to be succinct because there's a few of us speaking, and we all have important news to contribute to this long-term crisis that is being addressed through very creative and innovative means that we want to share with everyone, because if there's one word we want to continue to meditate on, that is the word hope, right? If we don't have hope, we don't have much else. So our first panelist is Arnaldo J. Lopez, who is an arts manager and development strategist with a PhD in Latino American literatures and cultures from New York University. As Pregones, Puerto Rican Traveling Theater's first development officer and now its first managing director, he plays a key role in planning and fundraising for year-round arts programs in the Bronx and in Manhattan. Mobilizing support for peer networks on the island, the company's Hurricane Maria relief drive for artists in Puerto Rico raised and distributed more than $100,000 in the form of no-strings emergency micro-grants to practitioners of all creative disciplines. A second wave of support is underway. If you could please come up, Arnaldo, thank you. But wait, there's more. Gabriel Rivera served as associate producer on the documentary we just saw, Puerto Rico, Hope in the Dark. He was one of 18 student filmmakers from Pace University who traveled throughout the island to chronicle and tell the stories of the people of Puerto Rico following Hurricane Maria. Gabriel is of Puerto Rican descent, and his family's from the city of Ponce, Puerto Rico. He's a graduate of Pace, where he attained his master's in media and communications. Gabriel is currently an intern with the ABC program 2020 and a freelance assignment desk editor with News 12, The Bronx, and Brooklyn. Please join us, Gabriel. The Reverend Dr. Damaris D. Whittaker is a United Church of Christ UCC minister. She was the first woman to serve as senior minister of the historic First Church of Christ, UCC, in Hartford, Connecticut. Dr. Whitaker is a public theologian at Fort Washington Collegiate Church. She's deeply passionate about social justice, advocating for racial justice, LGBTQ equality, immigration reform, women's leadership, universal health care, and affordable housing. Dr. Whitaker believes she's been called to break down silos and sees intersectionality of faith as a place where she can affect change. Dr. Whitaker is originally from Humacao, Puerto Rico, and is married to Sabas Whitaker. If you will, please. Reverend Damari. Sabas Hernan Flores Whitaker was born in Puerto Cortes, Honduras. He recently published 2 books, Faith in the Field and Canto al Emigrante en Voz Latina. He's participated in 4 humanitarian trips to Puerto Rico, aiding in the repairing of roofs and homes. Sabas is a holistic gardener and donated various organic seeds from his garden to Casa Solidaria via Proyecto Matria, overseeing the planting of them in the mountains of Miraflores, Orocovis with a youth group. These efforts will stimulate pollination, enhancing natural growth usually provided by bees wiped out by the hurricane. Fort Washington Collegiate Church's mission is not only to repair homes, but to stimulate economic activity by purchasing all materials from locally owned businesses on the island, such as in Humacao and Orocovis. If you will, Senor Whitaker. And we also have with us today Monica Tavares from the Hispanic Federation. Is Monica still here? I saw her earlier. Oh, please join us, Monica. We added her at the last minute. She'll tell you a little bit more about the incredible work that Hispanic Federation has done for hurricane relief, and just learned by me in actually the making of the documentary, which was really wonderful for me to discover, as I only watched the first 10 minutes or so before today's event, and I thought I wanted to feel the impact of seeing the whole thing for the first time here and now with all of you. And I'm glad I did that. So quickly, a little bit about me. I'll be moderating today's discussion. Should I read my official bio? Yeah. So I'm going to speak of myself in the third person, and then I'll zip it. Charlie Vasquez is an author and cultural consultant from the Bronx. He was one of dozens of artists who contributed original written and visual works to create the graphic novel collection, Reconstruction, organized by the artist Edgardo Miranda Rodriguez, the creator of La Borinqueña. To date, the anthology has raised over $150,000. Charlie served as director of the Bronx Writers Center at Bronx Council on the Arts for nearly 5 years and was a festival coordinator for Puerto Rico's Festival de la Palabra, which celebrated Puerto Rican literary culture and history, hosting award-winning authors and poets from around the world in public school classrooms in Puerto Rico and uptown New York City. So that's a little bit about us. In October or November, shortly after the hurricane, within a couple of months, my friend Edgardo, who I mentioned in my bio, called me, and he called it was a very urgent call, and he said, look, I don't have a lot of time. I'm basically calling everybody in my arts and culture Rolodex to see if they'll contribute anything at all. Consider contributing anything at all to this anthology. I don't know what we can do, but we have to do something. And I thought, absolutely, you can count on me. I sent him, a very short story. I didn't have a lot of time to develop it, but then he let me know that he was working on it with professional comic book artists in Florida, New York, and Hawaii. And he got together, was able to organize professional graphic novel artists and comic book artists who work for DC and Marvel Comics to join in on this project. So some of us donated stories, some of us donated visual arts and graphic design skills. There's over 100 contributors, among them some famous names like Ruben Blades, Sonia Manzano from Sesame Street, and so forth. And we just learned about a month ago that he's in Puerto Rico right now to announce the first round of $10,000 grants that they'll be giving out to arts and culture organizations throughout the island as a result of this crowdfunding effort. So while we were organizing this event, I realized as I was getting bios and discussing it with, developing it with Joanna, that there were several other campaigns across the community that were using creative means to raise money for Puerto Rico for this hurricane relief. So I'm going to start with Arnaldo. Each of us is going to 5 to 7 minutes each, just sort of introduce yourself to the audience and about the project specific to today's cause. And then we're going to get into the questions round, okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm moved by the experience of watching the film, and I think that there's so much in it that touches on what I want to share. I want to start by saying that today is the 150th anniversary of El Grito de Lares. That's the Lares uprising. There is a through line between that day, 150 years ago, and what we're doing here and what we're talking about. I'm a longtime staff colleague at Pregones, Puerto Rican Traveling Theater. We are both Bronx-based theater, founded by Puerto Rican artists, merged with the historic Puerto Rican Traveling Theater, founded by me and Colón in 1967, now working as one company with venues in the South Bronx and in Manhattan's Theater District, and with strong and lasting, from day one, ties to the creative community in Puerto Rico. So when a year ago, we were facing news of devastation on the island, we were also looking to find ways to connect, to find out who was where, what was going on, what were they going through, and what was the next week going to look like. It was stressful, and I'm certain that many of us here present had that experience too. The first information that we got was that of shock. We have nothing. Many people felt that there was a tremendous disconnect between their life 5 days before and their life at the moment. We put our heads together. We talked to many people in New York City. We talked to many people in other cities where we have family and friends, and again, evidence of the many interconnections of a great creative network. And we thought, let's make it easy on people, right? Let's do something that is immediate and that's not necessarily on us. This isn't about finding a solution for everything, but finding something that's truly effective and making it run as quickly as possible. So being a nonprofit organization, having already a mechanism to collect donations was a major advantage, and we decided to dedicate that platform to raising as much money as we could to distribute grants of $500. We chose $500 partly because that's the immediate emergency promise that FEMA quickly became unable to deliver, but also in order to really share as much as possible, and for it to be not so small that it wouldn't have some tangible impact. We dedicated from the season that was in progress 2 of our performances in the month of October, the box office and all donations collected to raise for the event. We announced in social media platforms that we were going to do this fundraiser, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. It was welcomed as one initiative, and in ways mirrored efforts. So what we saw was a crop of a whole bunch of different efforts to try to get behind the situation and remedy the situation in tangible ways. One of the things that I think is significant about our project is that we wanted it to be genuinely about artists helping artists. So this was designed as a peer-to-peer opportunity. We identified 10 artists that had worked with our company recently, within the last 3 years, And they were the first recipients of this modest but immediately useful grant that was no strings attached, and that they were able to really allocate any which way they chose and found necessary. There was no reporting, there was no application, all we needed was the name, the address, and the phone number contact. That team of 10, that first recipient crew, they identified the next circle of recipients, people that they knew were in need in the artistic community. And that's how it grew by concentric circles. And in total, we were able to give out the micro grant, as we call it, to 230 artist households. There's a number of really fascinating logistics about how we got it there. There was no power. We initially thought to use electronic transfer. That was not efficient. We thought to use mail. Mail took months to come through. So what we assembled was another network of volunteers and people on the ground who could fly to the island with envelopes that were personally addressed. And through network, find people to brave the roads and go throughout the island and deliver them. We initially made a point of connecting people to both to our networks and to assure that we were thought as an objective to reach outside the metro area. So that was another case where we saw these chains of connection throughout the island, which became important in many different sectors and for many different uses, but they were clearly in evidence in our case. And as the thing developed, we ended up extending what would have been a month-long effort, extending it through December 31st, and then finally through partnership, significant partnerships through May 31st, which is where it ended being when we closed it. We were capturing donations of all sizes. We were capturing small donations at our events. We were capturing checks. We were capturing online donations. We reached out to foundations and institutions that were able to match, and we enlisted many significant individual contributions. I do want to make mention of some of the partners that were key in terms of institutional funding: the Doris Duke Charitable Foundation, the Howard Gilman Foundation, Rockefeller Brothers Fund. I mention them because there's people of color behind the desks making these decisions at these foundations. We are at a moment of philanthropy that is unique that way. There's more people of conscience directing institutions like the Sugar Hill Museum and in a position to actually help. And that this was for us the first wave of an advocacy that is ongoing. I think I'm gonna wrap it at that.
I was told to take this.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Gabriel?
Thank you. So Pace University Pleasantville has been doing the Producing the Documentary course for about 15 years. And the class is headed by Dr. Maria Luskay. She's the director of the master's program for media, communication, and visual arts at Pace University. And the initial plan was to originally go to Puerto Rico, to go to the island of Vieques, to do a story, to produce a documentary on the bombings, testings that the U.S. military did, which ceased in 2003. And we had that all set up, and then Maria hit. And I remember talking with Dr. Luskay and asking, "Oh, are we going to do this? Or what's the story?" He said, I don't know. So she went back to her contact, who was going to set us up in Vieques, and he told us, "Look, I don't think this is going to happen for you guys. You guys are going to have to come up with a plan B." So we were going to go to plan B, so we were going to do something in Florida. And a little bit of time passed, and Dr. Luskay ended up at a function where the new president of Pace University, Martin Krisloff, was, and they got into a conversation. And she said, "Yeah, our initial plan was to go to Puerto Rico, but because of what everything's going on, I just don't know if it's a good idea for us." And he goes, "Well, why not? You have to go. This is an important story to tell." And we got his full support. And so from his support, Maria decided to Dr. Lusky decided to change her mind, and we decided to make our trek out to Puerto Rico. And we began the research phase in December, which is very unusual. This was going to be, from the outset, we all knew this was going to be very labor intensive. It was going to take a lot of time and resources to get this right. So we began the process in December. In total, it was 18 students, including myself. There's 2 of them here, but they try to be coy and not show themselves. So it's Devin and Rachel, stand up. They don't want to stand up. So yeah. So they're here as well. Both of them are really, really talented and excellent at what they do. And the other professor is Amy Rodriguez. She is a reporter for News Talk Bronx. And we spent the whole pre-production phase trying to figure out, okay, well, how am I going to go about this? The communication to the island was very difficult, to say the least. It took myself, my mother who's here as well, it took us about 2 weeks, I would say, to get into contact with her uncle in Bronx. And so we were trying to figure out, okay, how do we get into contact with people, where do we start? And so we just kind of put it out there in the ether for the university, okay, does anybody have any friends, any family, and in the university that would be willing to talk to us on camera and help us out? And we got an incredible response. So many people would just give submissions, I know a friend, I know this person, my uncle, mi tia, we have people on the island that want to talk. And so that helped us out tremendously. And we were able to find ways to get, to communicate with people to set things up in the island. And I also want to thank the Hispanic Federation as well. We got into contact through them through Hispanic Youth College Access, and the Hispanic Federation was incredibly helpful in helping us get in touch with a lot of great organizations on the island. And it really added a lot more to our film, because we were able to speak to a lot of organizations that were doing a lot of great work on the island. And we just want to thank them for that. So thank you so much. They were incredibly helpful in putting this together. And so we had our pre-production plan, and I would say we had an idea of what to expect through all our research and talking to people on the island, but you're never really prepared to see and deal with things until you're actually there. So when we got on the island, we got there, I believe, Monday night during our spring break. We did the project from, I believe, March 10th to the 16th. So prior to us getting to Puerto Rico, we spent a couple of days in Miami. So we spoke to a professor and a meteorologist, Ariano, and kind of talked and spoke with them, did a little work in Miami, and then we flew to Puerto Rico that Monday night. And from there, we just hit the ground running. We had long days, so our days would start typically around 6:30 in the morning. And we wouldn't get back and finish everything we were going to do, depending on what we were doing the night. So I would say maybe midnight, 1, 2 o'clock. Rachel's shaking her head. She's like, yeah. We had long days. So yeah, typically we would maybe get 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night. But it was an interesting experience. It was I will say it was emotionally it was a difficult thing to handle. And that I remember saying this: you can't quantify human suffering. So you're seeing a lot of people, you're meeting people, you're seeing the aftermath of people who've lost everything, people who have left. I remember speaking with somebody in Galas, and I asked them, like, ¿tú no quieres salir? What do you get? He's like, I can't go anywhere. My mother, my father are here. Where am I gonna go? And then I asked him, ¿dónde está la gente en esta casa aquí? And he goes, they left. Left their car, everything. They just picked up and left. So it's tough to see how things shaped up when we got there on the island. Logistically, we had issues in terms of none of the traffic lights were working. A lot of the roads were, the infrastructure was pretty shoddy. I'm saying it crudely, but it made travel very difficult. And it was a tough experience. There was a lot of emotions running through us, but we did a great job. I think we did, and we came back, worked really, really, really hard to get this thing done in about a month, and we now have the end product that you see here. And I must say, we knew that this was going to be important. I don't think it really dawned on us until the reception we started getting once we got the island, people telling us, that people wanted to speak. When we did our 2 prior screenings, one in Pleasantville and one in New York City, of just how big and important this is going to be for people. It provided something a bit cathartic for them, something for them to kind of bring awareness and tell their story and make them feel like, people are listening, people are interested, and people wanted to share our stories. Let's move down the line.
We're going to come back to the challenges, so
sure, no problem.
We'll come back to that. Yeah.
Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. My name is Reverend Whitaker. I'm the senior minister for Washington Collegiate Church, and it's an honor to be here today. So thank you for this wonderful invitation. We mobilized pretty much immediately after Hurricane Maria passed to Puerto Rico. We were on the phone a lot trying to find out how can we get there, and we formed a team. And I just want to recognize that with me today are 2 members of our team. One of them went on our first mission trip, which is Jenny Morillo, and also Dr. Karen Dorsey Shears. They're both here, so I just want to ask them to stand up for the amazing work that they have been doing in Puerto Rico with us at the Washington program. And on our first trip, we have been there about 6 times now, doing different things with small groups, with bigger groups. And on our first trip, we had a very difficult time trying to find tickets, so we ended up going in November. And we stayed in this apartment without walls and windows. And so we, at night, los mosquitos se entraban y todo. And as we were sleeping, we were battling the bugs and all those things. But we began by bringing a lot of basic need supplies, like food and solar lights and water filters, because the water was not drinkable, and a lot of towels to begin replacing some of the immediate needs of some of the people that lost everything, and mosquito nets. But before that, we got in touch with one of my colleagues on the island that she runs an organization called Proyecto Matria. And I wanted to partner with an organization on the ground that espoused the values for Washington Collegiate Church, that it was inclusive of all, that was committed to find where the least of these could be found. And we landed in Orocovis, Puerto Rico, which is the most center town of the island. Es el corazón de la isla, for those that have heard that before. And there's a community called Miraflores. And Miraflores has the highest per capita hearing impaired individuals in the island of Puerto Rico, and arguably this nation. And they are so remote in Miraflores that they have developed their own sign language. They do not know the American Sign Language because of its location. It's difficult to learn that. So there is where we ended up. And as a church that does not have unlimited resources, we committed ourselves to adopt a community or 2 so that the funds that we raise will have the most impact. So there in Miraflores, Puerto Rico, we had our first trip of listening and giving out supplies and going door to door to just learn the stories of people and also ascertain who needed the most help. We then focused on raising funds so that we could bridge the gap that FEMA was leaving behind very overtly. Those people that didn't qualify for FEMA aid were the people that we wanted to help. And so we have done that, and we have helped more than 12 roofs have been repaired, and we have given many supplies to many families. But most importantly, we have helped fund what now is called Casa Solidaria. And Casa Solidaria has its base. It's a program now of Proyecto Matria that is in large part funded by the Collegiate Churches of New York, by Washington Collegiate Church. And Casa Solidaria is a 360-degree human rights organization that is dealing with the needs particularly and most specifically with the people of Miraflores in Orocovis, Puerto Rico. And that includes from healthcare to education, economic development, you know, all of that has to do with the well-being and holistic life of a human being. They're trying to have a 360-degree human rights approach to their services. While also in Miraflores, Puerto Rico, we also partnered with one of the schools, Angel Papo Diaz schools, and we have been able to repair some of the recreational areas that were destroyed by the storm. We provided solar lights when the power still was not restored there. And we continue to work with the teachers and the principal to create a peer program with kids from New York and also in the school. But I think that I'm listing very logistically the things that we have done in Puerto Rico during this very difficult time. I just want to talk a little bit, just 1 minute or two, about the human conditions on the island. The images that we have seen today are very familiar to those of us who have been there throughout all of these months. I am originally from Humacao, Puerto Rico, so Punta Santiago, Naguabo, all those places are the places that I've been to many, many, many times after the storm and before. One of the things that really struck us on the ground was the spirit and just the goodness and beauty of the Puerto Rican people. The words, estamos vivos gracias a Dios, are words that are worthy of developing a thesis as its premise. Because everywhere we went, the harsh conditions did not prevent the people from saying, estamos vivos gracias a Dios. And our people are deeply religious. And I think that faith was such a catalyst to take them through this very difficult time. I also want to speak to the storms that were depicted in this documentary that came to the Puerto Rican people before Maria, which is a debt that continues to be unaudited, which is the yoke of the Jones Act, which is an oversight board that is called Promesa. And I want to respectfully disagree with some people that think that we needed Promesa. I see it as a colonial oppression on a people that continue to remind them that they cannot be free because someone always will have something to put on top of them to remind them of their yoke. And so I think that when I approach the first relief, now recovery into sustainability of the island of Puerto Rico, we cannot forget the immoral laws that continue to oppress nuestra gente. We cannot forget that there are storms that have been long-lasting, more long-lasting than Maria, and that perhaps will continue to, its wind will continue to azotar, to give and to whip the people of Puerto Rico. And while we have worked in Puerto Rico in relief and in recovery and with people one-on-one and with organizations on the ground, and remain committed to this work, as today my church is still talking and working on a medical mission as our next trip. We here in New York have formed the Collective Action for Puerto Rico, which is a group of faith organizations, including Union Theological Seminary, that has a list of demands. And one of them is the sustainable, responsible reconstruction of Puerto Rico. That Puerto Rico is exempt from the Jones Act, and that Puerto Rico has an audit that is led by citizens. Not a combination of government and citizens, but citizens, because we believe that the government of Puerto Rico is compromised and that the government cannot police itself. Therefore, until we have to, in my opinion and from our perspective, we're addressing the issue of Puerto Rico in a holistic way that understanding that the well-being of the Puerto Rican people do not only reside in a recovery that fixes roofs and puts back windows, but our infrastructure and the injustices that remain in our government need to be addressed in a way that calls out the immorality of its structures and organization, and also propels the Puerto Rican people to continue to lead their self-determination recovery into the future. We believe in the self-determination of the Puerto Rican people. So that is the premise of our work in the island and also here in New York City.
Thank you, Reverend Damaris.
Gracias, buenas tardes. Say one thing and start with one. Yo amo Puerto Rico. I love Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico embraced me since I was barely a man. I was a boy when I first arrived there as a merchant seaman. I later began to study there and been supported ever since. It hit me and it hurt me. I'm Honduran, and I know that Puerto Rican people have been involved in every immigration act, even though Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens by birth. You see the flag flying through every act here in this country. When Hurricane Mitch affected Honduras 20 years ago, I lived in Connecticut, and we organized Honduran Relief Committee of Connecticut. There were more Puerto Ricans there than there were Hondurans, or just as many, and of course different people from different countries. But that just to give you an idea of how dedicated, how committed the Puerto Rican people's spirit is to humanity in general. I felt so good to be able to, and blessed more than all, to be able to make my first trip. And the second trip where I was escorted, or I would say chaperoning and helping with some of the youth from Fort Washington Collegiate. I had carried some seeds, I put together other stuff that I thought, well, maybe they accepted or not. They were so welcoming in knowing what I was doing as well, was embracing where the kids from here, from New York City, learned to farm in the mountains of Orocovis. And my wife, Reverend Whitaker, was also thinking with Proyecto Matria, where we employed two of the ladies from the local communities to cook the food, because our idea was to try to bring some economic empowerment to the people who had lost so much. They were so committed, they didn't want to pay because they thought we were doing enough already. But one of the best kicker for us, New Yorkers, was that we were able to get two of the kids on different days, New York kids, to help do dishes and help cook and learn to cook Puerto Rican food. These are kids who, so the opportunity, Maria, the Puerto Rican people, even though we were helping, they were giving us something in return. But one of the things that I walk away mostly with, as I'm on the roofs and helping out and all, was the love that you get back. I mean, the smiles, even though the first gentleman house we repaired, he was hearing impaired, but you could see the smiles and the welcoming and just the love, and that's what you get from everyone you see. More importantly, you would talk to them in case you go over there, let them in their talk, and everything is normal. But there's a minute where they can ask you for 3 minutes, I just want to tell you my story. And just let them vent. And it goes back to normal, because they have to tell you what they went through. Our goal now, my next mission, if the blessings and everything is allowed, is that we have talked to Dr. Karen Dorsey, and Jenny is organizing the medical mission, because while in Orocovis, as my wife pointed out, they're so disconnected from medical service. We notice a lot of broken teeth, rotten teeth, and different medical, immediate, very visible medical needs. And we came up with an idea if we could kind of implement a medical mission, and so far it's been welcoming. And we ask for any support or any ideas, any doctors, anyone who wants to, any nurses that have an idea of wanting to go over to help because there's a lot of help still needed. As for the arts, I was talking to Arnaldo and I was talking to Charlie earlier in the week. There's a huge need in Puerto Rico in general. It's like a blank canvas waiting to be painted. Not only in every aspect that you look around, there's need for the arts. Not only that it would empower the artists, but it also would empower the nation, it would empower the country, make it beautify the country, probably improve tourism. I recommend any Latino person or any Puerto Rican, anyone from anywhere, instead of going to Disney World or to Europe or whatnot this year, go to Puerto Rico, spend some money. You're gonna return one of the best feelings ever, not to mention the love that you're gonna receive, but you will also be giving back rather than just receiving. Thank you for that.
Good afternoon. So like many of you and many other organizations across the world, the Hispanic Federation was tracking the course of Hurricane Maria. The day before the hurricane hit, the Federation called together a meeting with our congressional representatives, the governor's office, the mayor's office, a lot of our member agencies, labor, and we came together around the table and we knew that because of Puerto Rico's weakened infrastructure, that the hurricane was going to devastate the island, and that we needed to be ready to react. We immediately launched our fundraising campaign that Lin-Manuel Miranda became the face, and many other celebrities, right, supported our efforts. 2 days later, we chartered a plane and we brought in medical emergency personnel from the city of New York, and we deployed them to San Juan to help the mayor of San Juan build in a center, an emergency center, right, to figure out how are we going to support San Juan at that point. Immediately after, right, the ports were closed, FEMA was not responding, people were hungry, they were thirsty. We knew that there was food in Puerto Rico, right? They are food distributors, there's many of them. So through WhatsApp, right, because there was no way of communicating, we were able to connect with multiple distributors from across the island, and we set up distribution routes, right? To this point, we have serviced every single municipality, have distributed over 7.4 million pounds of food, water, other essentials, solar lamps, tarps, anything, right? And always listening to the needs of the people. Not politicizing anything, but really working with communities to figure out where the need was. You know, we focus on relief for the first few months. In October, the Federation is here to support nonprofits across the United States, right? That's what we do. And we knew that we needed to support the nonprofit sector on the island. And working with other foundations on the island, we started asking questions. What are those groups here who are doing significant work, right, to elevate the needs of their people? In October, with Lynn, we launched the Amanece Road to Recovery Fund. At this point, we are supporting over 79 organizations from the federally qualified health clinics, right, who are supporting and providing medical care to 1 in 10 Puerto Ricans who are uninsured, to very small organizations. I think a lot of the groups that you heard on this amazing documentary are, you know, organizations that the Federation is supporting in the areas of housing. They are building roofs, right? We understand that FEMA has not come through, right? They just changed their guidelines, but a little too late. We'll figure out how they're going to communicate those changes to all those thousands of people that they have denied support to. In the areas of renewable energy, with the Clinton Foundation, we are solarizing, and other partners, we are solarizing every single federally qualified health clinic in Puerto Rico, right? Because at the end of the day, sustainability, another hurricane hits, the infrastructure's not there. So let's make sure that clinics are solarized so that we don't have the loss that we had with Maria, right? We have to think forward. In the area of agriculture, right, we have to make sure that we take care of our farmers on the island. So we are investing a lot of effort and money into making sure that, right, Puerto Rico needs to grow its own food, has to grow its own food. In the area of the arts, right, education, Small business recovery for us is big. We have invested over $4 million supporting small businesses across the island and around workforce development. Around health, we launched this amazing fund with J-Lo and A-Rod to help the federally qualified health clinics. And at that point, we're not receiving any aid from the federal government. They had infrastructure needs, right? We needed to support that. Whether they are soul rising, whether they need additional generators, whether they had something to repair, the Federation, and thanks to over 200,000 donors from around the world, 63 countries, every single state, we have been able to do the work that we're doing. And we hope to continue. For us, this is long term. This is a commitment that we have made to Puerto Rico, a commitment that we have made to its people, and to the amazing nonprofit leaders in the island. They are doing absolutely amazing work.
Cool. I applaud you all. Actually, hold the mic for a minute, Monica, because we're going to send it this way. People are going to want to ask questions, but really quickly, 1 to 2 minutes each. Identify, please, one key challenge that you had to overcome in all of your amazing campaigns. For us, it was the publication timeline and just the amount of time it takes to assembly line a story through the illustrator, through the letterer, through the colorist, etc. But then we used each of the 100 or so people in the project all served as tentacles to promote this project. So that was one of the key triumphs in using the reconstruction as an example. If you could quickly, 1 to 2 minutes each, and then we'll take questions.
On the campaign itself?
Sure, the campaign specific.
Well, I think, we are blessed to have Lin-Manuel as the spokesperson for the Federation of Puerto Rico, and the support of J-Lo and all these amazing stars who came together, right? So the platform was there. I think for us, it was more, how do we reach those who need the support? How do we connect with those organizations? How do we hear? How do we know? How do we get to the mountains, right? Right? How do we get to the mountains? How do we get food and water? How do we support these communities? Because the money was coming in, right? I think it was more of a communication and infrastructure, right? Like how do we do our work? So we're blessed in that way. And then, with the support of the amazing foundations on the island, they introduced us to these amazing groups, and from there we just listened, we talked, listened, and we found all these absolutely amazing groups, right? And I travel to Puerto Rico often, and I take the opportunity to meet with these leaders, and the energy, it's just amazing, One of the things that I say is que el pueblo está levantando al pueblo. Está levantando al pueblo, and they're not depending on government to do that. But at the end of the day, we do need the federal government to respond, pero el pueblo puertorriqueño se está levantando porque se está levantando.
Thank you.
I leave most of the challenges for my wife to explain about she was the logistic person. And the one I remember clearly mostly is that we had carried 5 children and we had 2 chaperones, Dr. Dorsey being one of them, and Reverend Bridget Kelso being the other. And of course, when you take 5 underage children, it's a lot of responsibility. We had rented 3 cottages in Rocadura, which is a restaurant, has a cottage behind it. But when we get there, because the economy, these people, they first come, first serve. So some colleagues showed up with the money in cash, rented them out. FEMA showed up with the money in cash, rented them out. So they bumped us off. So we have one apartment, but swiftly she thought that we rented another apartment down in Dorado. So we have 5 kids up in the Rocadura area, and we have to drive back to Dorado every day, which is like, if you ever been up to Rocconis, it's like an hour and a half up the mountains on a windy road. And we go up when we work, and we had to come back out by 7 o'clock, we had to be there. So we got up at 5 in the morning to drive to Oroconis to get the kids in Dr. Dorsey, so we could go up to Miraflores to have lunch. It's like dark in the morning. That's when I'm like, okay, am I really into this? I mean, it was still a good feeling because you're doing a good thing, but it was kind of, they did a reception at the night. So at the end, which amazingly again, these 5 kids, monolingual, all English speakers, got along with these these other kids from Miraflores without no language barrier, even though the kids in Miraflores spoke no English. They formulated such a bond, which is an amazing thing to see. Although driving back down that night was no fun at 11:30.
Those are the logistical challenges. I want to talk a little bit about the communication at the beginning was very difficult. We're a church, so we work within the boundaries and restrictions that being a community of faith provides for us often. So we had to navigate. We were not able to get tickets. I mean, that was one of the most difficult challenges at the beginning. And then communication was another one. And then the third was the assessment of the homes and the communities that needed the help. So we had to wait for our partners on the ground to sort of lead us in that way. And we live very rapidly in New York City, and we move from place to place with ease, and we're used to a pace that it's not realistic in Puerto Rico.
Right.
So when you were trying to move teams at a different pace, it's very frustrating,
Yeah.
right? People are like, why are they not responding? It just was that whole response and communication was our biggest challenge. And also, I think that using our limited funds in a way that was the most effective because the need is so vast. So it's great that we're talking about it, because if you have a check with you, we'll take it for Washington Daily Church for Puerto Rico. But it just those communications, assessment, and really distributing our resources.
So again, it's the logistics. So once we got on the island, it was really difficult trying to get around. I mean, the infrastructure was damaged. As I pointed out earlier, a lot of the traffic lights were not working at all. And it made for some dangerous driving situations. I remember we were, because we all split up into teams and just fanned out on the island. I remember on the very first full day we were there, we were just coming back from an interview, and we had to jump on a highway, and there was a light there, and it's just like all these cars just kind of clogging up this four-way intersection, and our van almost got clipped. And this was on more than one occasion that we almost got hit by cars. So just the travel was very difficult, and as you pointed out, getting up into the mountains. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of us were scared because this is the first time we've ever experienced going up roads that typically only fit one car, but are meant for two cars. And I remember I was in my uncle's truck, and he kept honking the horn, going,
Horror stories.
Theo, what are you doing? And he goes, just to let people know on the other side that they can't see us that we're coming. So Martin's like, oh my God, this is nuts. I don't know what I'm like, but yeah, and just those kind of travels, because you're trying to, and just the long distances. I mean, because we knew this was important, but we wanted to try and tell as many stories as we could, but in a safe fashion. I mean, because even after that time, a lot of stories are coming out that Puerto Rico, besides the infrastructure issues, there was a huge issue with a spike of crime. Desperate sort of death messages, and there was a lot of looting, and unfortunately people were killing each other, for generators, for supplies, and this is what happens when there's just a lack of resources after a disaster. So we were trying to figure out while we were there, okay, how do we get from point A to point B in a timely fashion, because we had to set up, shoot, get out, get to the next location.
How do we get there alive?
Yeah, and how do we make sure we get back to the hotel safely before dark? Because as I said, there's the lack of light, we don't know what's out there. And the challenges evolved as the project went on. So first was communication, trying to get people on the island. On the island, it was the travel. And one other thing is just the emotions, because we have to keep our emotions in check. Because at the end of the day, we have a job to do. We have to do our jobs and be professionals, which is very difficult to do. And so for me personally, I know this is a very personal experience for me. There were times where I got emotional, but you have to keep it straight, because we have a job to do. And while we want to tell these stories and we want to we empathize, we have to keep it together to tell this story. And so that was two of the biggest things that we had to deal with while in Puerto Rico.
And Arnaldo.
Thank you. Definitely communications, delivery of the microgrants, and coordination of how we were fundraising and planning to get those dollars delivered. So I think this was very much about troubleshooting. It was finding a way to do it. When one door closed, we had to find the other one as quickly as possible. So when electronic payment was not an option, or when we realized US Post was really not operating as anticipated, and then always listening to what was the need on the ground, how were people reacting, and with listening came so many people raising their hands to volunteer and collaborate in one way or another. So the coordination challenge was really one to make sure that we didn't pass on any offer that was presented. And frankly, we got as many from the people on the island that we were looking to help as we got from the people here who were looking to pull resources and help us move it along. So I think that for us, it was really an experience that was consistently humbling and hopeful throughout and to this day. I think the other challenge, I think in some ways is implicit, which is one of scale, right? We were doing something at a certain scale. The demand is really, the need is bigger than what we can provide. So again, the idea of also doing advocacy and encouraging every other sector, every other opportunity to really also do something. In the case of Pregones PRTT, we realized that this isn't just a one shot, right? We knew it early on. This is our ability, our openness to extend the deadline, to extend the fundraising, to extend the delivery, to coordinate with more people, to bring in more partners, was about knowing, well, let's keep going. Let's see where this takes us. Right now, we are closing that formal relief mode, and I think there's a concerted effort to raise awareness that we're at a different stage, a different phase. So we are partnering with the National Association of Latino Arts and Culture to bring in some additional grants that will go directly to artists in Puerto Rico through their formal process. We're doing some additional presentations of Puerto Rican artists that are flying to New York to be part of our season, and we continue to look for those kinds of openings. So again, challenges that are immensely instructive.
Yeah. I see this common theme, especially for the work, the boots on the ground work in Puerto Rico, is having to bypass this comfort. The comfort of telecommunications and the internet and the telephone and having electricity and all of these conveniences of contemporary life that we take for granted until the lights go out, until the apagón strikes, right? This return to sort of face-to-face cooperation and back to sort of our social primate interactions to make the best of things and to make what seems like nearly the impossible possible. So I applaud you all so much for your work, and I thank all of you for being here, and for the movie, and to the Hispanic Federation for being such an anchor in this project, and for just for this moment, and to Joanne at the Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance for coordinating this with the Sugar Hill Children's Museum, because this is going to be a long-term, ongoing conversation. This isn't something that we can just conveniently, for those of us who are close to the Puerto Rican people or Puerto Rican, it's going to be on the news for a long time. This isn't something that's going to go away anytime soon. So bear with us. Any questions from such an attentive, polite, sophisticated, sexy audience? Yes, cool. I'm going to do an Oprah. Hold on.
That was the magic word, sexy.
Yes, you got that right.
Thank you so much. I'm a member of Riverside Church, and we have individuals there who want to participate. we want to take a team up in January.
Okay.
It would be wonderful if we missed the film. My
Okay.
friend, who is 88 and I'm 85, but we missed this documentary. But if we can reproduce this whole program at Riverside Church in a large assembly hall, I would like you to help me do that.
We'll
Thank
make that happen. Thank you so much. Actually, if you have a question, you're going to have to come up here because of the sound situation. Thank you. You put my live music skills to work. That was a previous life.
Just a quick one. I'm actually
Yeah.
a teacher and a mother.
That's okay. Come.
No,
It's okay. Here.
I've been reading a lot and going back to the tribal ways that people are. When people talk more and share stories, the message is more resounding, it's more relatable. And I'm an educator, and my initial question was just to ask how I can get a copy to show my students. But it reflects what she's saying as well, because we're all thinking the same thing. We want to start these pockets of communities to be volunteering and getting involved. I went myself this summer, but with an organization that was slightly disorganized, so my volunteer work was like haphazard, and it was not, I think, as contributing as I'd like it to. And if we had more opportunities like Riverside Church would like, if there's a way we can access this documentary, and there's a way that we can then access individuals who know others who are organizing there that we can join. If you disseminate that information, the more we talk and communicate, I think the more help we'll get.
Cool. Yeah, they're here. So after the Q&A session winds up, please meet one another, exchange contact info. There's a lot of stakeholders in this. So feel free to connect with whoever if you're here, you want to connect with anyone here. These are wonderful people. These are community-focused people. Make these things happen, because there's not just one contact person here. I think we're all kind of contact people. Yep.
One follow-up comment. So Puerto Rico absolutely needs support, and I know that there's many that want to travel to the island to volunteer and give back. But one thing that I have to say is that we here in the United States have a lot of work to do. That is why the Hispanic Federation, together with over 200 other organizations, labor, faith community, educators, launched this campaign last week, right? And it's called Take Action for Puerto Rico. And if you go to the website, takeaction4pr.org, this is a toolkit that will walk you through Puerto Rico's history, right? One of the things that we have found out doing a lot of advocacy in DC is that our legislators, right, the same way that millions of Americans in the mainland found out that Puerto Ricans are US citizens, our legislators in DC are clueless about Puerto Rico and the needs of Puerto Rico. So this is a way not only to educate them, but to educate ourselves in order to advocate for Puerto Rico. It's takeaction4pr.org. So this toolkit is going to walk you through talking points. If you want to do a media, if you want to write, an op-ed, if you want to call Congress, what are the talking points? All that we know right now is that in order for Puerto Rico to rebuild their infrastructure, it needs $125 billion estimated. Right now, the federal government has allocated $30 billion. Puerto Rico will not be able, right, to do what it needs to do without federal aid. And that is on us, right, here on the mainland, to bother and call, right? We have the power to do that, right? And I count on your support for that.
Yeah, just to follow up, I know you're a teacher, and the school that we showed in the film, it closed. And I just had a discussion with Deb and Rachel, and the reason why it closed is because lack of teachers. Yeah. So one way to help, your knowledge as a teacher, maybe it's just, I don't know, is that a lot of teachers are leaving the island because they can make more money here. And also, a lot of students have left. I believe I read something where there's between 30 and 40,000 kids that have not re-registered for school in Puerto Rico. So one thing that really needs a lot of attention right now is how do we educate the next generation, we call now the Maria generation, when teachers are leaving, so schools are closing because there aren't any teachers, and students are leaving, and so when you don't have students, who are this teacher going to teach? And so it's a Puerto Rico on top of everything else, they're facing an education crisis because the lack of resources on the island, it's causing a lot of really talented individuals to leave. And so that is something that I just wanted to point it out because it's a difficult thing to see children be affected in this way. Especially, I was raised in that education is very important, and to see kids lose out on those opportunities, it's terrible, it really is. So, anybody else?
Any other questions? One final question. They're being polite. You're so timid. You're a wonderful audience. Thank you so much. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you to the City Hill Children's Museum, Joanna Castro at the Northern Manhattan Arts Alliance, and everybody who made this possible today. Please come meet these wonderful people. I don't know if I did this right. That was cool.